How's this supposed to help me tidy up? I'm just kidding. I appreciate the sort of mindfulness that some people kind of need to put alongside getting rid of things. I get that. And I think there's no point ragging on Marie Kondo because, well, she's a cultural powerhouse at the moment. And I think the fact that people are interested and people are willing to actually think about these things is can only be a good thing. I wanted to make this video for two reasons. The first one being the other video that I wanted to make, I am making, is just taking longer than expected. I'm working on a travel video about Bristol and I want it to be really good, and it's not finished yet. So I thought, what else have I got on my list of things to talk about that I can talk about quickly and simply, and it's going to be something that might be interesting to you guys. Minimalism. I think the idea of being more mindful about the things that you own and just getting rid of stuff that you don't need is something that's becoming more prevalent in mainstream culture with people like Marie Kondo. The thing that got me into it in a big way was the Minimalism, the documentary, and subsequently the podcast and YouTube channel by the director of that, Matt D'Avella, and the Ground Up Show. And I think even just by looking at this frame, the things that are around me, you can tell that I'm not a stark minimalist. I think I'm just on a journey to being more mindful, and I think that that's okay. I think it's okay. So what does that journey look like? Well, the first thing that happened when I thought about being a minimalist or living a more minimal lifestyle was just getting rid of stuff. Find things that you never ever use and just get rid of them. And that accounted for probably nearly half of the stuff that I own. Nearly half the stuff that I own was really easy to get rid of. Then, once that had happened and you kind of in this sort of zone of wanting to just get rid of stuff so you have more space and you have less clutter, you kind of have to be like, right, what is this doing for me? Why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? What does it even mean to me? And so you have to define what minimalism means to you. Is it just a case of being more intentional about the things that you own and keep? Is it looking at the things that you buy and figuring out whether they're some sort of crutch or whether they're actually things that you need? Is it looking at the things you own and, I'm going to quote Marie Kondo on this one, is it things that bring joy to you? And it can't just be things that bring joy, it's got to be things that are practical as well. You know, the toilet brush doesn't bring me joy. I don't want to get rid of it though. There's a quote from Minimalism, the documentary, I think it's in that, it might be in some of the behind the scenes stuff, where one of the guys is talking to someone who really loves their book collection. And he says, I can't be a minimalist, I need to keep all these books. And I was kind of similar, and I was like, oh, okay, I can't be a minimalist because all these books. But if they're things that are important to your mental well-being, if they're things that, like she says, bring you joy, then keep them. Some of the things that I got rid of weren't objects in this space. The first thing that actually went for me was my studio space. I had lovely studio space with some great people, but it wasn't providing the value that I needed it to. And also it was becoming an excuse for keeping things because I had plenty of space. So that's why there's some productivity stuff in this house. So let's have a little bit of a house tour of what minimalism is looking like, or at least the journey to a more minimalist lifestyle is looking like for me at the moment.
Box of things that are like, it's stuff that needs like things actively doing to. So there's stuff like all these things I'm making for the shop, and then the stuff that I've borrowed from people, and things I want to give to people, and things I haven't decided what to do with. So it's like one space where
Purgatory.
Kind of. It's like one space where I can put something, and it means that I know that I have to deal with it. And it's been working out pretty well so far because I've been pretty productive getting all these things made. So yeah.
Cool.
It's been a good life lesson.
Some stuff's harder to give away or get rid of than other stuff. Things that you know you can never get back. Things that have a lot of nostalgia around them. I inexplicably have a collection of cinema tickets dating back to about 2003. Every time I went to the cinema, I kept a ticket. That's something that's kind of hard to get rid of, and I think one of the things that I'm going to try and do, I've got a lot of stuff like that that's just things that I've kept over the years and they have some sort of weird sentimental value. I'm going to do some videos about them, and I kind of had this idea because of listening to the Ground Up show, and one of the episodes he was talking to someone who took photos every year, made a book of all the photos that he took of the things that he was getting rid of, but the things that had some sort of special value to him. And he was saying that, well, actually, by having this book, I see these things more than when I actually owned them.
I can't, not I won't, I can't just throw it out. I can't do it. But so I would take a picture of it, and it would be in the book. And I actually saw it more in the book than I did if I had the item in a drawer. That really helped me. I went through, took a picture of that. It's in the book. Every year I print out a book. But even if you don't, just take a picture of it.
And I think for me, making some sort of video, and not necessarily a video for YouTube, but just something that, you know, if I look back on in 15 years, I can kind of get a good sense of the nostalgia of these things without actually having them. And it can be a digital file that lives somewhere where it doesn't take up space. Although, you know, digital minimalism is something that I strive for as well. It's a lot easier to have a lot of things that are digital. You'll obviously have noted there's lots of boxes, and they are things that I've got ready to sell on eBay. Things like my Sega Mega Drive, my PlayStation. I don't know why I was keeping them. Well, I do. It was nostalgia. I'll never play them again. I don't even have a way to play them. I don't have anything to plug them into. You can emulate anything like that, even on my laptop. So I don't need those things. But it's still hard to get rid of them. It's a series of steps. It's not something that happens overnight, unless your house burns down, I guess. That's bleak. Don't say that. I find that sometimes I impulse buy things on Amazon, and I'm trying to stop that, and I've just had to return some things because I don't need them. I'm not going to use them. I'm not going to get the use out of them. I'm going to have to return them. All this is just to say that being more intentional is not something easy and quick. I've chosen to do this because I think it's going to make me happier, and so far it is making me happier and more productive. Minimizing the amount of gear that I use to create these videos has certainly helped. It means that now I can just sit down quite easily in front of this and talk about whatever it is that I want to talk about. And if you want to hear me talk about more stuff like this, if things like this interest you in any way, I'd be really grateful if you subscribed and maybe hit that bell icon, like this video, things like that. If you've watched to this point, I think you probably should, shouldn't you? Right, I'm gonna go wake up my books.